Chapter 401, True Flame Sect. Several days later, Seafig Island lay beneath drifting clouds as a streak of azure radiance swept in from afar. The light dimmed, revealing a burly man hovering above the sea. It was Han Li, though now he wore the guise of an ordinary, dark-complexioned, middle-aged cultivator, his true bearing carefully concealed. Suspending himself in mid-air, he surveyed the island with his bright-sight spirit eyes. At that moment, an egg-shaped blue restriction shimmered into existence below, sealing the island within its glow. An opening soon parted in the barrier, and before Han Li could react, a calm voice rang out from within. "Come in, Tianyu." Han Li raised an eyebrow, then descended into the opening. The gap sealed instantly behind him, and the blue barrier faded away as if it had never existed. Beneath the restriction lay a hemispherical space no more than 1,000 feet across, its air thick with heat. As Han Li entered, his gaze swept across a group of unfamiliar cultivators. Among them stood a black-robed elderly man smiling warmly, with a woman in yellow at his side. After a brief glance, Han Li recognized them as Taoist Hu Yan and Yun Ni, both likewise hidden behind disguises. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Martial Uncle. I was delayed along the way," Han Li said, cupping his fists apologetically while glancing at the others. Behind Hu Yan and Yun Ni stood 9 cultivators clad in fiery red Taoist robes, each sleeve embroidered with a lifelike fire raven. Their faces carried an unnatural flush, and fierce fire attributes' spiritual power surged faintly from their bodies, betraying their cultivation arts. Leading them were 3 figures: an elderly man with crimson hair and beard, a towering bare-chested man, and a stern middle-aged woman. Though weaker than Hu Yan and Yun Ni, all 3 were unmistakably golden immortals, with the red-bearded elder slightly ahead of the other 2. "Come, Tianyu," Taoist Hu Yan said with a smile. "These fellow Taoists are from the ancient Cloud Continent's True Flame Sect, and will be accompanying us into the infernal Frost Immortal Manor. This is Sect Master Xu Yangzi, and these are Elders Zhen Yun and Lu Lan. Fellow Taoists, Tianyu is my nephew. Sharp-minded and steady in cultivation, he should prove useful inside the manor." "Gu Tianyu pays his respects to the seniors of the True Flame Sect," Han Li replied, saluting solemnly. He was familiar with the sect by reputation. On the ancient Cloud Continent, the True Flame Sect ranked just below the top 3, famed for peerless fire attribute arts. Yet its disciples rarely ventured abroad, keeping the sect strangely low-key despite its strength. Xu Yangzi nodded slightly before turning back to Taoist Hu Yan. "Isn't it premature to discuss what happens after entering the Immortal Manor when we don't even know where its entrance lies, fellow Taoist Gu?" Zhen Yun and Lu Lan merely glanced at Han Li before looking away, their expressions reserved. Han Li remained unbothered and stepped behind Hu Yan and Yun Ni. "I trust you've heard the news released by the Transient Guild," Taoist Hu Yan replied calmly. "The entrance may not truly be there, but at least we now have a direction." Xu Yangzi sighed. "It shows great trust that you revealed the Infernal Frost scenic painting and invited us along. Still, we've searched the Black Wind Sea thoroughly and found nothing. There's no proof this rumor is real. True or not, we should still investigate Red Moon Island." Yun Ni said evenly. Zhen Yun shook his head. "There's every chance this rumor was spread deliberately to lure us into a trap." Lu Lan frowned deeply. "And that trap may well belong to the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace. We must be cautious." "The infernal Frost Immortal Manor appears only once every tens of thousands of years," Taoist Hu Yan said, his voice sharpening. "Last time, a new region was discovered within. There's a strong chance it holds high zenith pills, treasures vital to advancing to the high zenith stage. Otherwise, why would the Immortal Palace hide the entrance so fiercely? This opportunity may never return. Are you truly willing to retreat?" Xu Yangzi's expression wavered. "I haven't decided yet. I only believe we should move carefully." The 2 elders remained silent, doubt still clear in their eyes. Watching this, Han Li frowned faintly. The True Flame Sect's golden immortals were tempted, yet their hesitation and lack of resolve explained well why the sect had always remained so inconspicuous. "I understand your concerns," Taoist Hu Yan continued. "If we faced the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace alone, we'd stand no chance. But since the Blaze Dragon Dao incident, resentment toward the Immortal Palace has been spreading. Vast Flow Palace, Dawnfall Sect, and many others are deeply displeased by their actions, especially the concealment of the manor's entrance. They've made themselves a common enemy. I believe all these powers will head to Red Moon Island. If the entrance truly lies there, Yunni added, then with everyone joining forces, the Immortal Palace won't be able to oppose us all. Even if it's a trap, they can't ensnare everyone. What is there to fear? Xu Yangzi stroked his beard thoughtfully, temptation flickering in his eyes, mirrored by Zhen Yun and Lu Lan. The treasures of the Immortal Manor alone were enough to stir their hearts. Time is short, Taoist Huyan pressed. Will you really let this chance slip away? Xu Yangzi hesitated, conflict clear upon his face. Of course, we won't act recklessly, Taoist Huyan said smoothly. We already have a plan. Han Li glanced at the True Flame sect cultivators and smiled faintly. Martial uncle, you've prepared everything, haven't you? Taoist Huyan returned the smile and swept his sleeve. Lifting the surrounding restriction, a ball of blue light flew forth, expanding into a peculiar flying carriage. Cross-shaped windmills stood at both its front and rear, dazzling light radiating from it alongside powerful spiritual fluctuations. This carriage was obtained from the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor long ago, Taoist Huyan said. Its concealment abilities are exceptional. Travelling to Red Moon Island with it will greatly reduce our risk. Han Li examined it closely. Crafted from rare spirit materials, its surface was etched with countless profound patterns that emitted faint water law fluctuations. With his heavy water true axis, Han Li sensed that these laws were perfectly suited for concealment. He took the initiative, boarding the carriage first. After a moment's hesitation, Xu Yangzi followed. Then Zhen Yun, Lu Lan, and the remaining True Flame sect cultivators. Huyan and Yunni exchanged a glance before joining them. Once all were aboard, Taoist Huyan formed a hand seal. Misty blue light surged forth, enveloping the carriage completely, erasing both its form and aura until it vanished from perception altogether. Chapter 402, Entrance. At Taoist Huyan's command, the flying carriage plunged from the skies and sank straight into the sea below. The moment it entered the water, the blue radiance around the carriage melted seamlessly into the surrounding waves. As though the vessel itself had become part of the ocean, it shot forward soundlessly, leaving no ripples behind. Xu Yangzi could not help but praise. This flying carriage truly lives up to its reputation. Fellow Taoist, it seems the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor really does harbour extraordinary treasures. Taoist Huyan smiled faintly. You flatter me. If we succeed in entering the Immortal Manor, I trust everyone here will gain something of great value. Elder Zhen Yun nodded with anticipation. Lu Lan added softly, Let us hope the entrance truly lies beneath Red Moon Island, and that we can enter without incident. Taoist Huyan offered no reply. He merely stamped his foot lightly, and the carriage surged forward once more. It moved through the depths like a ghost, causing neither turbulence nor displacement. Schools of fish and sea-dwelling demon beasts swam about as usual. Utterly unaware of its presence, Han Li surveyed his surroundings, inwardly impressed. The carriage's craftsmanship was exquisite, and its creator clearly possessed profound mastery over water laws. Travelling within the sea in this manner was extremely safe, yet from the fluctuations of immortal spiritual power, Han Li could tell that it consumed immortal origin stones at a fearsome rate. Taoist Huyan was clearly sparing no expense, likely to secure the full cooperation of the True Flame sect. After a brief look around, Han Li settled into a corner, crossed his legs and closed his eyes to meditate. Once the initial novelty faded, the other true immortals followed suit. Red Moon Island lay not far from Seafig Island, and with the carriage's astonishing speed they arrived in roughly 2 days. However, instead of approaching the island directly, the carriage halted hundreds of kilometres away beneath the sea. Everyone rose and gazed silently at the massive island looming ahead. I didn't expect the island to be this vast, Taoist Huyan said, with a slight frown. Even if the rumours are true, finding the entrance on such a scale will not be easy. The Infernal Frost scenic painting was useless here, and to avoid exposure, they could not spread their spiritual sense. Under such constraints, searching the island was no simple matter. Xu Yangzi and the others exchanged helpless looks. Yunni finally suggested, Let us circle the perimeter first. Perhaps we may discover something along the border. With no better plan, Taoist Huyan agreed, and the carriage resumed its silent advance. Everyone activated their covert techniques to scan the surroundings. Twin beams of blue light suddenly shone from Hun Li's eyes. Xu Yangzi's brows knitted at once. Do not act recklessly. If you expose us, we will all be in grave danger. Besides, with your cultivation, how much can you truly contribute? Hun Li smiled calmly. Senior Xu Yangzi need not worry. This spirit eye technique emits no aura. Taoist Huyan chuckled. If Qianyu wishes to help, let him try. He nodded slightly toward Hun Li, signaling him to continue. They swiftly passed halfway around Red Moon Island without finding anything. Xu Yangzi's expression darkened, and Zhen Yun and Lulan grew uneasy. Suddenly, Hun Li's expression shifted. Please stop here for a moment, Martial Uncle. Taoist Huyan raised a brow and halted the carriage at once. A veil of rippling blue light enveloped it, blending perfectly with the surrounding seawater. Moments later, a streak of light flashed past from afar and plunged straight toward the seabed, vanishing in an instant. Taoist Huyan looked at Han Li with clear approval. Impressive spirit eyes. I was merely fortunate, Han Li replied modestly. Xu Yangzi felt a twinge of embarrassment but said nothing, watching the fading light along with the others. Could the entrance be down there? Yun Ni asked. Can you see further? Han Li pushed his bright sight spirit eyes to their limit, but the sea was far too deep. He could only shake his head apologetically. Taoist Huyan pondered briefly. Since we are already here, some risk is unavoidable. Let us descend and investigate. Yun Ni agreed, and Xu Yangzi's group soon followed suit. With a series of hand seals, Taoist Huyan guided the carriage downward. The depths were immense. Even after a long descent, the sea had remained distant. Deep trenches and rifts crisscrossed below, forming terrain as complex as a submerged mountain range. Taoist Huyan hesitated, having lost all sense of the streak's trail. Yun Ni and Xu Yangzi's trio were equally uncertain. It went down that trench, Han Li said, pointing to a massive chasm nearby. Delight flashed across Taoist Huyan's face. What sort of spirit eye is this, to see so far? Han Li explained gently. I cannot see that far. I only detect faint traces of spiritual power it left behind. Even so, Yun Ni praised his ability, and Xu Yangzi's group was forced to reassess him. The carriage entered the trench, where countless tunnels branched off in all directions. The passages appeared natural, yet their origin was unclear. Han Li's eyes gleamed with curiosity. He had never known the seabed beneath Red Moon Island was so intricate. Guided by Han Li's spirit eyes and Taoist Huyan's control, they advanced carefully. The carriage shifted size at will to pass narrow channels, and the cultivators adjusted their bodies accordingly. Time slipped by. The rock tunnels shimmered with icy blue hues, exuding faint spiritual chi like rare spirit materials. In the pitch-dark depths, only their cold glow provided light. Han Li soon detected numerous overlapping spiritual traces, as though many cultivators had passed through before. When he shared this, everyone grew excited, clear proof they were on the right path. They pressed forward cautiously. Before long, distant rumbles echoed ahead, unmistakably the sounds of battle. Hope surged through the group. It should be just ahead. So the rumours were true, after all. Taoist Huyan remained calm. Do not lower your guard. With that, he hastened the carriage slightly as they moved toward the source of the sound. Chapter 4 and 3 Seal, the flying carriage pressed onward, and the thunderous rumbling ahead swelled like an approaching tide. Seawater churned violently on all sides, while the rock tunnels quaked without pause, fragments of stone raining down intermittently from above. Multicoloured lights flickered in the distance, and waves of spiritual sense swept outward brazenly from every direction, utterly lacking concealment. This scene was far beyond anything Han Li and his companions had anticipated. In the blink of an eye, the flying carriage burst out from the tunnel's end. Before them lay an immense underground cavern, its ceiling bristling with countless blue stalactites. Judging by its structure, it was a naturally formed karst cave, stretching for dozens of kilometres. At present, more than 30 cultivators had gathered within. Unleashing furious attacks toward a single point in the cavern, their target was a dense barrier of black radiance. Through its depths, the faint outline of a cave entrance could just be discerned, along with indistinct figures standing within. Spirit treasures crashed into the barrier one after another, causing it to tremble incessantly. Yet whether due to deliberate fortification or innate resilience, the black light remained unbroken, unmoved by the violent shockwaves battering it. "How dare you seal the entrance of the Immortal Manor? The Infernal Frost Immortal Manor does not belong to the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace. Remove these restrictions at once." Shouts of fury rang out as attacks continued to rain down. At this sight, Han Li and the others felt a surge of exhilaration. Taoist Hu Yan promptly produced the Infernal Frost scenic painting. The instant it appeared, its blue radiance flared brilliantly, pointing straight toward the black barrier. Clearly, due to the restrictions, the painting could only sense the manor's entrance from close range. "So it truly lies here?" Taoist Hu Yan said as he stowed the painting away, his gaze burning as he stared at the barrier. Xu Yangzi and the others were likewise brimming with excitement. Han Li was also pleased, though far calmer than the rest. He swiftly collected himself and shifted his attention to the cultivators gathered within the cavern. There were 34 in total, all at or above the true immortal stage, divided into 3 distinct factions. The most striking group stood at the cavern's edge. A dozen blue-robed cultivators led by a kindly-featured middle-aged man, none other than Luo Qinghai, master of the vast Flow Palace. Aside from one effeminate young man, the others were unfamiliar to Han Li. This faction was overwhelmingly powerful, boasting 4 mid-golden immortals and Luo Qinghai himself at the late golden immortal stage. Compared to such strength, Han Li's party was hopelessly outmatched, especially as most of the remaining Vast Flow Palace members were late true immortals. After a brief glance, Han Li turned to the second faction. These cultivators wore black robes embroidered with skulls upon their chests. Led by a pockmarked elderly man, a veiled petite young woman, and 2 men of vastly different stature, they radiated a sinister presence. The elder glared viciously about, while the veiled woman was wrapped in layers of translucent azure light. One of the men towered over 20 feet tall, built like a moving fortress, while the other was barely 5 feet high, squat yet dense as forged iron. Though worlds apart in size, their faces bore an uncanny resemblance, marking them as brothers. All 4 were golden immortals. The elder at mid-stage, the others at early stage, while the rest were true immortals. The final faction matched the others in number, yet their attire was peculiar. All wore short vests and black bandanas regardless of gender, and none appeared human. Among them stood 4 golden immortals, a dark-complexioned old man, a freckled elderly woman, and 2 powerfully built men with wooden puppet-like expressions. Each held a golden cane etched with strange patterns, their auras resonating in eerie harmony. At present, it was the latter 2 factions assailing the Black Barrier, while the Vast Flow Palace merely observed. Luo Qinghai occasionally glanced toward the underground space beyond the sealed entrance, as though awaiting some unseen development. Once the initial excitement faded, Taoist Hu Yan and the others regained their composure. Xu Yangzi hesitated, then asked softly whether they should reveal themselves or continue watching. Taoist Hu Yan replied that while no traps were apparent, revealing themselves here was unwise. With that, he guided the flying carriage back into the tunnel, shrank it with a hand seal, and stored it away, exposing everyone to view. "Let us go." Taoist Hu Yan and Yun Ni led the way, with Xu Yangzi and the others close behind. Upon re-entering the cavern, all eyes turned toward them, including several gazes from beyond the black barrier. Luo Qinghai glanced over briefly, disappointment flashing in his eyes before he looked away. The other 2 factions also paused their attacks and turned their attention toward the newcomers. Feigning surprise, Taoist Hu Yan's group halted nearby. The pockmarked elder stepped forward with a hideous grin and addressed Xu Yangzi, inquiring about the unfamiliar faces beside him. Han Li, being only a true immortal, drew little notice. Xu Yangzi greeted him warmly and made introductions, revealing the elder as Chen Pi, sect master of the Ghost Whale sect. Han Li's brows twitched at the name. This sect, notorious on the ancient Cloud continent, rivaled the True Flame sect in power and was infamous for its ghostly and devilish arts, often slaughtering others for their souls. Though despised by the Blaze Dragon Dao, its distant location had spared it from direct reprisal. Taoist Hu Yan introduced himself as Gu Yan, with Yun Ni as his junior sister, both itinerant cultivators. Chen Pi returned the greeting courteously, clearly eager to form an alliance. With mutual interest, the two sides soon fell into cordial discussion, while the foreign race cultivators remained silent and aloof. When Xu Yangzi confirmed the sealed cave was indeed the manor's entrance, Chen Pi sneered coldly, denouncing the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace and proposing that all three factions join forces to shatter the restriction. When asked about the foreign race cultivators, he explained that they hailed from the Southern Dawn race and simply preferred isolation. Taoist Hu Yan showed no objection. In the Immortal Realm, wariness between races was natural, and as long as no deeper hostility existed, cooperation was entirely acceptable. Chapter 404. Impasse. Chen Pi spoke frankly, saying he had already contacted the other factions, all of whom harboured deep resentment toward the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace. A temporary alliance could be formed, and if 10 golden immortals struck the same point of the restriction at once, it would certainly shatter. Xu Yangzi frowned slightly and turned to Taoist Hu Yan for judgment, causing Chen Pi to reassess the latter's standing. Taoist Hu Yan questioned why they had not joined forces with the Vast Flow Palace. Chen Pi sighed that such a great sect looked down on others and refused cooperation. After a brief silence, Taoist Hu Yan set up a light barrier with a sweep of his sleeve, sealing off the surroundings, then advised against breaking the restriction for now. He reasoned that doing so would provoke a direct clash with the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace, benefiting only those waiting to profit from the chaos. He urged patience, noting that the manor's opening was still some time away. Once all powers gathered, the Immortal Palace would not dare oppose everyone at once. Xu Yangzi agreed, pointing out that Luo Qinghai and the Vast Flow Palace were likely waiting precisely for others to make the first move. Enlightenment dawned on Chen Pi, who admitted his earlier eagerness was driven by anger. Accepting the advice, he withdrew and relayed the plan to his companions, who soon halted their assault. Calm settled over the cave. Luo Qinghai exchanged glances with Taoist Hu Yan, then remarked privately that waiting and watching was the wiser course. Forcing Xiao Jinhan to lift the restriction later would be ideal. Behind the black barrier, within the inner cave, the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace cultivators stood in tense silence as Xiao Jinhan seethed. He demanded an explanation for how the manor's location had leaked. None answered. Shui Ying insisted no information could have escaped, but Xiao Jinhan pressed her harshly. Lu Yue proposed two possibilities: an internal leak, which was unlikely, or that the Reincarnation Palace had discovered the entrance long ago and deliberately spread the news. This eased Xiao Jinhan's fury, and he ordered everyone to resume their duties, leaving the matter to him. Outside, silence reigned again. Hunli observed quietly, searching in vain for signs of the Reincarnation Palace among the masked cultivators. Suddenly, a sense of unease stirred within him. He warned Taoist Hu Yan that someone else was arriving. At that moment, a silver-robed woman appeared in a flash of light, her cold gaze sweeping the cave as she stepped inside, sending ripples of tension through the gathered crowd. Chapter 405. Assembled. A trace of vigilance flickered through Hunli's gaze as he quietly observed the woman before him. Even with his vast spiritual sense, he could not discern her cultivation base in the slightest. This was a sensation he had only ever felt from figures such as Xiao Jinhan and Bai Liyan. Not even Luo Qinghai had once appeared so unfathomable. After watching her for a time, Hunli closed his eyes and entered meditation, outwardly calm. The woman was none other than Qiuling. At her waist hung a small golden pouch, its surface shimmering with spiritual light. Strange patterns were etched upon it, radiating faint yet profound law fluctuations. Suddenly, the pouch twitched ever so slightly. Qiuling's brows knit faintly as she brushed her hand across it without drawing attention. A ball of silver radiance appeared in her palm and slipped soundlessly into the pouch, which then returned to stillness. At that instant, Hunli's eyes snapped open, shock flashing across his face. He immediately lowered his head, concealing his reaction. Almost simultaneously, Qiuling raised her head and swept her gaze across the cave. Those who met her eyes felt a piercing pain, as though needles had stabbed into their pupils. Most hurriedly withdrew their gazes, while some with weaker cultivations stifled groans, having clearly suffered internal injuries. Several golden immortals frowned in displeasure, yet none spoke. Luo Qinghai narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled. "I didn't expect to encounter you here, fellow Taoist Kuling. Two true immortals of the vast Flow Palace had just been injured by that brief exchange of gazes, an ill omen with the immortal manor so close at hand. You hide away in seclusion, yet even you have come. Why shouldn't I?" Kuling replied coolly, casting him an indifferent glance. "The infernal Frost Immortal Manor does not belong to the vast Flow Palace. You are naturally free to come. Still, is it fitting for someone of your stature to intimidate juniors like this?" Luo Qinghai asked mildly. "If you kept your juniors from gawking like fools, I wouldn't need to discipline them for you." Kuling sneered. The other golden immortals bristled with anger, but Luo Qinghai raised a hand, stopping them. "You're right, fellow Taoist Ku. They were indeed rude. It seems your cultivation has advanced even further since we last met. I must say, it is impressive." Kuling offered no reply. She merely glanced at the black restriction and moved to stand elsewhere in the cave. Luo Qinghai remained unperturbed, his smile unchanged as he calmly looked away. "Who is she, Senior Huyan?" Han Li asked through voice transmission. "Even Luo Qinghai doesn't dare offend her." "Her name is Kuling," Taoist Huyan replied. She's an enigmatic yet famous figure in this region. She reached the late Golden Immortal stage over 100,000 years ago, and her cultivation has likely progressed further since. More terrifying than her realm is the army of spirit beasts and spirit insects she commands. Her temperament is cruel and unpredictable. Even the northern glacial Immortal Palace avoids crossing her. If you encounter her inside the manor, stay far away and do not provoke her." "I understand," Han Li responded solemnly. Half a day passed in the blink of an eye. Restlessness spread through the cave, especially among the ghost whale sect cultivators. Chen Pi's gaze darted repeatedly between the cave entrance and the black restriction. Suddenly, joy flashed across his face as another group arrived, the Dawnfall sect, led by their sect master and Feng Qiandu. "Welcome, Elder Feng, Sect Master Qi. I've been waiting for you," Luo Qinghai greeted warmly. "You arrived early, Palace Master Luo, and brought quite the entourage. It seems you're set on reaping great rewards from the infernal Frost Immortal Manor," the Dawnfall Sect Master remarked. "I wouldn't dare compete with the two of you. I merely brought these juniors to broaden their horizons," Luo Qinghai replied with a smile. "You're as modest as ever," the Sect Master laughed, clearly unconvinced. Feng Qiandu remained silent, his gaze sweeping the hall. He wore a clean grey robe, still corpse-like in appearance, yet far more normal than before. The chains that once bound him were gone. His eyes soon fell upon Kuling. "Long time no see, fellow Taoist Ku," Feng Qiandu said, surprise flickering briefly. Kuling gave a slight nod in response. Han Li was inwardly startled. Kuling had shown arrogance toward everyone, even Luo Qinghai, yet before Feng Qiandu she was noticeably restrained. Clearly, this was no coincidence. Feng Qiandu's presence felt just as unfathomable. "Are these the Dawnfall sect cultivators?" Han Li asked softly. "Yes," Taoist Huyan replied. "The scar-faced man is Sect Master Qitian Xiao, a low-key figure. The one beside him is Feng Qiandu, their Grand Elder. Along with Bai Liyan and Xiao Jinhan, he is counted among the three most formidable golden immortals of the northern glacial immortal region. He secluded himself tens of thousands of years ago. It seems he has finally emerged for this." Han Li's heart stirred. As he observed Feng Qiandu, a strange sense of familiarity welled up, as if he had seen him before. At that moment, Feng Qiandu suddenly turned his gaze toward him. Their eyes met, and a chill ran straight down Han Li's spine. It felt as though he had been completely seen through. Han Li hurriedly looked away. Feng Qiandu watched him a moment longer, a peculiar light in his eyes, before turning back to the black restriction. "Are the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace cultivators inside?" Feng Qiandu asked. "They are," Luo Qinghai nodded. Feng Qiandu studied the barrier, then casually raised a hand. A streak of black light shot forth like an arrow and struck the restriction. Though unremarkable in appearance, the impact made the barrier shudder violently, ripples surging across its surface. Countless black specks formed a 9-grid pattern, and a strange force quickly stabilized the disturbance. The 9 heavens profound array, Xiao Jinhan's handiwork, Feng Qiandu said. Indeed, Luo Qinghai replied. This restriction is not easy to break. With your strength and that of the Vast Flow Palace elders, you could do it. Why wait? Feng Qiandu asked. You flatter me, Elder Feng. Since we all wish to enter the manor, it's best we contribute together, Luo Qinghai said calmly. That makes sense, Feng Qiandu agreed, then turned to Qu Ling, who nodded once in silence. Enough talk, Feng Qiandu declared, sweeping his gaze across the cave. Let us join forces and compel the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace to remove this restriction. Once inside, we part ways. Everyone voiced their agreement. Feng Qiandu rose and descended before the Black Barrier, the Dawnfall sect following closely, along with cultivators from every faction. Han Li joined them, but deliberately lingered near the rear, hiding in a discreet corner. A vast collective aura surged forth, pressing heavily upon the restriction. Space trembled, and the cave rumbled under the crushing spiritual pressure. The Black Barrier rippled endlessly as Feng Qiandu spoke coldly. Xiao Jinhan, your attempt to monopolize the immortal manor has failed. Remove the restriction now, or we will break it ourselves. The black restriction quivered but did not yield.